Welcome back to Sports Corner. I'm joined here by Frank Gambino. And Frank, we're going to have a massive state basketball preview over the course of 2 weeks here. And we're going to start this week with the 1A, 2A state title contenders. And we're going to start in 2A, the boys side. Some good teams there, a lot of good contenders. What are you looking at in 2A boys?
I'll tell you, in 2A, one of the teams I really like is Pine Bluffs. I mean, they know what they're doing. They've had a long history of success lately, and they got a couple of guys who can really score. You know, Tucker Norman is a guy who averages 16 points a game. You know, Brian Chain with 15. The Hornets are the #1 team in 2A in scoring. They're also the #1 team in shooting. Another team that I've seen is really good is Wright. They're more of a component of all their pieces, but they have enough guys where you're going to get something from here and something from there and something from there. If they play their game, they're going to be a very, very tough out. Like Cody Thompson is a good player and Logan Robb is a good player. They're really good at rebounding. So Wright is another team to watch. Another team, obviously, is Wyoming Indian. And when they get into a rhythm, I mean, they can be really, really hard to beat. You know, Lane Hill is a guy that can make shots from everywhere on the inside and the outside. He's worked very hard at his game, and he is a very, very competitive player. And the Chiefs, more often than not, even if they should lose, they're going to make it life very, very difficult because they can press on defense and then turn you over and then get buckets left and right. The other team that I have watched and they're kind of intriguing is Glen Rock. Jaron Fritz is a guy who transferred in from Tongue River. He's a double-digit scorer. You know, you have Tucker Bopp, who's good at track. He's good at football. He's good at everything. And then you have Cale Kuhlman. So that's 3 double-digit scorers on a single team. I watched them play against Wind River, and they really, really look sharp. And they were a lot of athletes and stuff like that. So I think the 2A boys can be very competitive, but I would watch for those 4. And I would also watch for Bighorn, too.
Looking forward to those tournaments when they get going. On the girls' side, Wyoming Indians the class of that division. But, I mean, there's a chance for other teams to get in there and get that state title.
I still think for Wyoming Indian, you know, when you have Alex Brown, a player who's capable of 15, 20 points a game, and plus you factor in some other players like Siona or Stoga, she's another double-digit scorer. This Wyoming Indian team, they can shoot and they can score, and they're like the men for Wyoming Indian. They will press and turn you over and get easy baskets. Once they get into a rhythm, they can be really, really tough. Another team in 2A on the western side is Grable. You know, they had a very talented volleyball team that didn't probably have the best volleyball tournament coming when they had it here back in last year. I think they're looking for a little bit of redemption this year. They've got a lot of talent. There's no doubt about it. Kendall Wright's a really, really good player for Grable. And Pine Bluffs. You have Cammie Ragsdale, who is the leading scorer in the classification with 20 points a game. They are going to be tough. Even if they don't play very well, they could just grind you out. And maybe they're a team that will survive and advance and survive and advance and survive and advance. And Bighorn as well. I mean, that's just one of those things where you're the sum of your parts. You have a little bit from here, a little bit from there, a little bit from there, and I think Bighorn will be very competitive, and they're going to be a tough out in the 2A tournament.
Moving on to 1A, we had a fantastic championship game last year with KC and Burlington. A buzzer beater winner there for KC. But this division, it feels wide open. There's some dominant teams here and there, but it's an open division for this championship.
I think one of the intriguing factors is going to be Upton. You know, they're moving from 2A to 1A this year. They've lost up until this week just a single game. And if you factor in the kids that play with Upton Sundance for football, like Clayton Louderback and Dylan Barrett, just Claycorn, I mean, Claycomb, that's a really good threesome that can put up 40 points between the 3 of those guys. That's what makes them really, really tough. Another team that's come on lately is Encampment. They shoot the ball really well, 51%. I mean, that's pretty good for a high school team. I mean, it really is. And Dalton Peterson's been averaging about 18 points a game. They could be really good. Here's Farson. You know, when you have Lane Mitchelson, a guy who's just an incredible all-around athlete, and you saw those guys when they won the 6-man football championship, they can be tough. He's averaging about 22 points a game, but, you know, Clancy Giants has not played very much due to an injury, but they're that hidden factor as well. Another team is Burlington. You know, they're well coached. They don't beat themselves. Dante Garza is a good all-around athlete. But they're that team that, you know, if you don't play well against them, you're going to walk out of the gym going, what happened, because you'll lose.
Exactly. And moving to the 1A girls standings, St. Stephen's was the last team to be undefeated this year in all divisions. They were a really dominant team until they fell to Farson on the road. But that St. Stephen's team is a really good one.
And that's another scenario where when St. Stephen's gets into a rhythm, they can pile up points quickly, with layups, and they hit, threes, and they're a really, really good shooting three-point team. Matter of fact, they make 37% of the three-pointers. That's really unheard of for a high school team. St. Stephen's is going to be really, really tough. The other team that I think is going to be their main challenger is Cokeville. Here's another outfit that they're well coached. They don't beat themselves. They make a lot of free throws. They don't shoot a lot of three-pointers, but they have Camille Nate, who's a double-digit scorer. They just do all the basics and the fundamentals perfectly. Probably a couple more teams in 1A girls. Arvada Claremont, 2 double-digit scorers there, and Farson Eden with 2 double-digit scorers. So I think 1A girls will be very, very competitive.
Very exciting matchups to see. Possibilities there when we get to the 1A, 2A state championships here in Casper. That'll be coming up in a matter of days. Frank, you got some time to come back next week and talk about 3A, 4A? We'll get him on next week for that. Exciting tournaments to preview there. But for now, we'll toss it back to break, and we'll be right back with some more Sports Corner.